Now that you've followed me through a facility inspection, let's debrief about what we observed. We identified a few stormwater issues during our inspection at the corporation yard. But did you notice a common thread? These potential pollution issues were caused by either staff not knowing they were doing something wrong or from a failed BMP. You've heard me use the term BMP a few times now, and you've probably picked up that it has to do with preventing pollution. BMP stands for Best Management Practice and covers all sorts of pollution prevention techniques. BMPs can typically be divided into 3 categories. Good housekeeping, like I said in the last video, involves keeping your site neat and tidy, like sweeping up and putting things away where they belong. Notice I said sweeping. Outdoor cleaning should be done using dry methods whenever possible. Even liquid spills can be swept up after using absorbent from a spill kit. Proper training falls into good housekeeping too. You could argue that most of the issues we saw on our corporation yard inspection came from a failure in good housekeeping. The track-out issue certainly, but if you think about it, the washing mats outside issue came from somebody not being trained well enough to know he was causing a problem. The second BMP category is called source control. This is basically preventing pollutant sources from coming into contact with stormwater. Storing materials inside is the best source control measure. If materials are stored outside, they should be kept under cover and out of the weather. Secondary containment should be used to prevent spills and physical barriers installed to prevent materials from mobilizing with wind or stormwater. Source control could also have helped with the issues we saw at the corporation yard. For the material storage areas, this could be accomplished by covering the garbage cans around the yard and moving that pallet of absorbent inside the covered storage bay. The third BMP category is treatment. There are various products on the market which can remove pollutants from stormwater. The lower end of the scale includes things such as compost socks, mulch, zeolite, and homemade stormwater treatment devices. The higher end treatment devices include retention basins and treatment control plants with price tags over $100,000. Treatment should always be the last step in a BMP strategy. It's almost always easier and cheaper to prevent pollutants from coming in contact with stormwater than trying to remove them after the fact. However, the most effective BMP strategies incorporate all 3 categories. If you encounter an active discharge at a facility, immediately stop the discharge. Document the discharge and the steps taken to resolve the problem, and the West Valley Clean Water Authority will follow up with the facility. When you encounter a problem, it's always helpful to give the facility manager a courtesy heads up that you identified a problem and need to include it in your report. There's a chance you may encounter an uncooperative manager, in which case, be polite and refer to the authority for follow-up. Remember, most of the time, pollution is caused by a lack of awareness or a BMP failure, and most facility managers want to do the right thing. Unfortunately, a few people do have a brazen disrespect for the law, and there's a chance you might encounter one of them. Let's talk about illicit discharges. These are usually discharges to the stormwater system, and they might be reported to you by the general public or possibly by a neighboring facility. An illicit discharge could be leaking oil, wash water, or even potable water. Remember, only rain is allowed down the drain. If you encounter an illicit discharge in the field, report it to the West Valley Clean Water Authority for immediate response. If the discharge source is readily apparent, stop the discharge. However, in most cases, you should just report the discharge and let the authority respond. It's important to completely fill out your inspection form and take sufficient notes. If you're using a paper form, write legibly and don't pencil whip. This information is required by various stormwater permits, so a paper trail is vital. And there's a possibility that your inspection form could be relied upon in a court of law, so be thorough and objective in your report. Take plenty of pictures, use a date and time stamp if possible. Digital forms are submitted electronically to the West Valley Clean Water Authority. If you're using paper inspection forms, make sure you submit a copy of your inspection report to the authority for follow-up and record keeping. Stormwater inspections are important for a number of reasons. You're protecting businesses by helping them correct issues before somebody ends up in court. But also, by protecting stormwater, you are protecting and preserving our environment for future generations.